Good morning, everybody. Wow, this background is really goofy today, but I think we've got it. I hope everybody is doing very well. Uh, this morning, I will just, how am I going to fix this lighting? Oh, well, we'll go with that. So, it's a beautiful day here in Shelburne, and I got my windows open because it is so nice outside, and our neighbors are cutting the grass. While you might be able to hear the noise from their lawnmower, you probably can't smell the smell of the fresh cut grass, which is really quite well, it's just always so nice and wonderful. Wow, you folks are already here in great numbers, it looks like, so that's awesome. Let me just bring up your chats. Good morning, everybody. Phoenix, Arizona's in the house. That's cool. And Orlando. Did I see Orlando's here? Ah, yeah. Well, I'm glad Alabama's here. Very good. Good morning. Wow. It's so good to see everybody. Um, full disclosure. So, despite the fact that Michael said I look ecstatic, um, I've actually been spending most of the morning this morning. I've been crying. Um, I've been crying. I've been putting together this, what I wanted to talk about here in this on this channel this morning, and so some of the stuff that I bumped into just it tore me up. It absolutely tore me up. So we're gonna come to that stuff a little bit later on when I can when I can when I can escape, maybe say, oh well, time to go. I'll just go weep. But um, first thing, so it looks like here in Nova Scotia, we are going to be allowed to have drive-in worship services. My daughter told me this yesterday. I haven't been looking. So next week here in Shelburne at this time, we'll be doing a drive-in worship service if all the restrictions are indeed lifted so that we can do that. The parish, we actually have a small radio transmitter so that everybody can stay in their cars with their windows up in the shade because the back of our church is quite shady, and they can just listen to morning prayer or whatever service we happen to offer. I think we're going to offer something in regards to Indigenous healing and reconciliation. I think that would be a I think that would be time well spent. And so I've been thinking about how we're going to keep doing this because I love doing this. I love hearing from you. I just do. I, I love hearing from you folks like this. So I'm thinking an afternoon during the week that we'll just gather like this. Maybe, excuse me, I had something on my keyboard and that just drives me nuts. But yeah, so that's the first little bit of business, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, lots of things can change between now and then. Um, I have been experimenting with this software. So let's take a look at the Collect of Purity today. Almighty God, to you all hearts are open, all desires known, and from you no secrets are hidden. Cleanse the thoughts of our hearts by the inspiration of your Holy Spirit, that we may perfectly love you and worthily magnify your holy name. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. Oops, that's the wrong scene. There's the right scene. See, this is all experimental. It's all experimental. Um, yeah, yes, I have been crying this morning. I don't I don't completely understand my emotional connection to the issue. I really don't. I wish my brain works in a very, I think my brain works in a very critical, very logical way, and I really want to understand why it is that I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, because it hurts, right? But yeah, so, but again, we're gonna get into that. You can all give me a virtual hug later. I promise. The collect of purity, we talked about it this week a little bit in one of my videos. We say it at the beginning of many of our services as a way of just getting ourselves straight. Just, okay, clean us for this moment. Let us be fresh for this moment. Let us be ready for this moment. And it's important. And in this moment, what we're going to be talking about here today, there's lots of stuff that is really important. We're going to talk a little bit about a story I recently read about former President Barack Obama, which I thought was really awesome. I don't know why I thought it was awesome. I did. And he made the news. He made the Christian Broadcasting Network's news sort of in a bad way. They were holding it up as, I can't believe a president would say this kind of thing. And personally, I thought it was pretty cool. So let's jump right into that. So in this story, he said he was talking about the UFOs, right? So there's in the media, there's all kinds of talk about UFOs and pictures from the Air Force and yeah, all kinds of different things. And there's reports that are looking to be made unclassified. And anyway, Obama, in one of his talks, in an interview he did, he said, if we discover life on other planets, like life, not just like microbes, but, sentient beings on other planets, whether they're in humanoid form or some form, he says, this may open up entire new religions. And of course, the Christian Bible Network, I think that scared them a little bit, but it's true, isn't it? Hey, Nala. So I'll bring you in and just have a seat in our green room, and I'll bring you in just a second to tell your jokes. Anyhow, so yeah, he said it might open up new religions, and they said, but this isn't. Now his point was, I think his point was, if this God that we worship here on earth is God of the universe, then of course God of the universe would have spoke to the universe. He didn't just choose to speak to us. I mean, even in his covenant with Abraham, he says, you will be the father of many nations. All nations will know me through you. So that's speaking to Abraham in a regional way. Right? Abraham wouldn't have been thinking about North America at the time. He would have been thinking about the people that he's come in contact with, but all the earth. So everywhere, all over the place. So I think it's kind of exciting that maybe God did speak to a race of a species of people who walk around on 14 legs and have 2 heads and 3 eyes and all that kind of cool stuff. I think that's a neat thing. So we do have to broach a button. Yes, Nirvana says something really important here. I have noticed that every now and then I think I'm getting in the YouTube doghouse, and so videos that normally would see a few hundred hits are getting a lot less. So please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification button if you haven't already hit the notification button so that you can be notified whenever we release a video. Your time is so precious to me, and I'm so appreciative that you're there. But the more we can do to share this channel, maybe the more we can share some of these more progressive Christian ideas. What I was going to say is, this is June, in case you haven't noticed. Last month, everything that was brought in by this channel through the super chats went to, or will go to, once all that is squared up, it will go to the Primates World Relief and Development Fund's vaccination equality program or equity program. This month, being June, new month, we're going to do something a little bit different. And given what we know has come out of Kamloops, BC last week with the discovery of 215 graves of children who attended a residential school there, we are going to, let me just see if I can bring this up. All Super Chat is going to go to something called the Downey Wenjack Fund. So the DWF provides access to education on the true history of Indigenous people in Canada and the history and legacy of the residential schools, and encourages reconciliation by way of our programming and events. They work with teaching, they work with history, they work with art and with music and dance, and they do all kinds of really, really awesome, amazing things. Now, this fund was set up through the work of a fellow by the name of Gord Downey and his partners, and the communities that support him. Gord Downey was the lead singer of the greatest rock band in the history of rock bands called the Tragically Hip. And Gord had a real passion for Canada and for all the peoples of Canada. And the story goes that his brother introduced him to the story of a 12-year-old named Chanie Wenjack. Chanie Wenjack was a student who, at one of these residential schools in Ontario, he was taken from his family to go there. And one day, Chanie decided enough was enough, and he was going to walk home. He didn't know where his home was. He had an idea, but he had no concept of how far it was. And he began a 600-kilometer journey with no provisions, with no gear, with no winter clothing. And Chanie didn't make it. He didn't make it home. So what Gord says here, this is a quote from Gord: Chanie haunts me. His story is Canada's story. This is about Canada. We are not the country we thought we were. History will be rewritten. We are all accountable, but this begins in the late 1800s and goes as far as 1996. White Canada knew, on somebody's purpose, nothing about this. We weren't taught it, and it was hardly ever mentioned. Now, those are two websites. On the bottom, the downeywenjack.ca takes you directly to this Downey Wenjack Fund. You can make donations straight to them. I would encourage you to do so. That way, there's no percentage that goes missing through YouTube. Or the secretpath.ca. Now, the secretpath.ca is a little bit different. I don't know if you can actually donate to that, but on it there is it's a 2-hour video. The first hour of that video is a movie that CBC did here with Gord Downey about the Secret Path project. I would highly, highly, highly encourage you to go and to watch that. It'll tear you up. I swear it'll tear you up, but you'll be better for it in the end. Nyla, could you run and get me the Secret Path book? So, yeah, you can see that I'm already, just talking about this, I'm feeling something. So please, all your super chats, this is where these funds will go to. And if you would rather not make a super chat and instead send your donation to the downeywenjack.ca to that fund directly, oh, so happy about that too. This is needed. Now, this book, there it is. Sorry, Charlie. This is called The Secret Path. And this is a book that Gord Downey and Jeff Lemire wrote, and it is a chronicle, a little bit of a chronicle, illustrated with some lyrics about Channy's voyage. Yeah. So there's Charlie. You all know Charlie. Nyla's here. We're gonna let Nyla tell some jokes, and we'll get back into talking about aliens here in just a second. All right, Nyla, come and tell us your jokes. Okay, let Nyla tell her jokes.
Creation. An atheist scientist came to God and said, "We've figured out how you made man. We've figured out how to make man without you." God said, "Okay, let me see you do it." So the atheist bent down to the ground and scooped up a handful. But God stopped him and said, "Oh, no, you don't. Get your own dirt."
Very good. Very good. You got another one?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't want to go to church. A mother went to wake her son for church one Sunday morning. When she knocked on his door, he said, "I'm not going." "Why not?" asked his mother. "I'll give you 2 good reasons," he said. "1, they don't like me. 2, I don't like them." His mother replied, "I'll give you 2 good reasons why you will go to church. 1, you're 47 years old. 2, you're the pastor."
Very good. Will you come back in a few minutes and tell some more jokes?
Yeah.
Great. Do you have a joke you want to tell? Okay. Then I need you to come back and talk to me in a few minutes too, because we're going to talk about what you said about being poor today. Okay? It was really, really awesome. So let's take a look at some of your comments here, folks. Let's see. Wow, you have a lot to say today. That's awesome. Yes, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and the notifications bell. Joan says Larry Norman's song UFO. If there's life on other planets, then sure that he must know. And he's been there once already and has died to save their souls. That's it, right? That's it, right? Nirvana, thank you so much for your generous gift. Helen, thank you so much for your generous gift. TJ, thank you so much for your generous gift. As I mentioned, all super chats today, all super chats throughout the month of June will go to the Downey Wenjack Fund to help with the healing from the legacy of these residential schools, to help teach the true history of Canada. If you could put a link up for a direct donation, I need to figure out how to do it. If you go straight to that place, there's a big button. If you go to it's downeywenjack.ca, there is a button up on their webpage where you just hit donate, and that would be cool. Yeah. Yeah, so back to this idea of other planets and God and new religions. If there's life on other planets, they're going to teach us new things. Now, I'm not necessarily a fan of the idea of new religions, but I'm also not a fan of the idea that there are different religions. A big part of me, I follow Christ, I walk as Christ, I do my best to walk as Christ asked us to walk. I read my Bible, I go to church, I live the Christian life. It's my choice to live the Christian life. I see value in it. I see the reward of it. I recognize how my experience has helped me grow, has helped me become a better person, has helped me move forward, how it's helped me empathize with others. But if God is truly God, then I also have to accept, or at least wrestle with, the concept that God has chosen to speak to other people in other ways. God has chosen to reveal God's self to other people in other places, in other ways. It's just what it is. Otherwise, I would be saying that my God is a regional God, in which case, why? I don't believe that. I believe that Jesus came to save the world. I believe that Jesus came to save every person, all that believe in him. I believe that. Why then would I assume that God limits that action to people who speak a certain language, who look a certain way? Why would I ever believe that God is limited in somehow? Again, if there's a limit to God, can God be God? Eh, just my take on that particular issue. I know so far we're a little bit discombobulated here, jumping from place to place. But yeah. So what do you think about that? Let's see. Usha, good morning. Someone looks sleepy still. You might have missed the first couple minutes. I've been up since about 6:30, so I've been up for quite a while. I'm not feeling terribly sleepy. I am, however, feeling terribly sad today. I have been just preparing for this. Um, I've been encountering some material that had me crying for quite a while this morning. Um, let's see. The path of God, Nirvana says, the path of God is the same as the path of light. Religion matters not as long as the path is for the good of humanity and every other force of good. Right? Religion is ultimately comes down to being a practice. Right? Religion is the practice. In my estimation, religion is the practice of faith. Faith is the thing that connects us to God or draws us to God. God is found in all people in all places. So yeah, I'm with you there, right? Our religion should lead us to God. Our religion should lead, if it's leading us to the God, it's leading us to the people. Those two things are connected right from the beginning with Abraham and right on through Jesus and all the folks that have come after since. Joan says the names will be different, the visualizations will be different, but God is always the same. Absolutely. See, that's the point, right? That's it exactly. Even in places where you see many types of deities worshipped. If you combine them all, you get that understanding of God. They just happen to be broken down in many visualizations. Yeah, I think that's wonderful. Rochelle, good morning. Like different learners who need different methods of getting the message in school. Why may that not be the case in the world? Absolutely. And now that we've got these UFOs flying around, the whole universe, right? I think we might, through this, we might be able to see a God that's just showing us the divine in all kinds of crazy ways. So as far as Obama saying, you know, life on other planets, sentient beings on other planets might lead us to new religions. I'm not sure about that, but maybe those species will lead us to new visualizations and new understandings and new thoughts about God. Oh, Charlie looks tired. Oh, it's Sunday morning. That's Charlie on Sunday morning. He's Yeah, he doesn't want to get dressed on Sundays till well, he just doesn't want to get Saturdays and Sundays. That kid doesn't want to get out of his pajamas at all, unless it's to go swimming. And they actually went swimming in Shelburne Harbor yesterday, so that was pretty neat. And I went for a sail, which was awesome. It was good to be around some sailors again. Let's see. T, thank you so much for your wonderful donation. Again, all donations today, all donations this month will be going to the Downey Wenjack Fund, found at downeywenjack.ca. And we'll talk more about them again a little bit in the future. When I was a theist, I believed that all the religions were various human attempts of knowing God. Yeah, why not? Good morning, Cece. Cece, good morning. Shannon, good Sunday morning. Good to see everybody here. It is really, really good to see everybody here. Um, Another thing that I wanted to make mention of, well, this is going to come back to one second. I'm just going to yell a little bit. Hey, Charlie! I don't know if you heard me, so we'll see. Charlie and I were talking this morning. Charlie has juvenile arthritis, and every week Charlie has to take 2 pills. He has to take 3. He has to take 2 on Saturday, and he has to take 1 on Sunday. And today, he and I were talking. Charlie and I were talking about his hatred of pills. So the 2 pills that he has to take, they fall apart really, really easy. As soon as they get wet, they turn to a really not a pleasant tasting paste, and he has a real problem with it. It can trigger his gag reflex, but he does it. And every week he laments that he has to take his pill. Every week he hates the idea of it. I mean, to the point of tears, right? But it's either a pill or a needle, and he hates needles worse. So he takes these pills, and the pills are doing they're doing great work. He's a different kid than he was last year. This medication has helped him be a different kid than he was last year. So we were talking a little bit about his pills and how he wished he'd never had to take them, and how he wished he didn't, that they weren't here. And I made mention, because of my contact with through YouTube, I told him that there are children, there are children in, and you almost want to, third world countries, but it's not. There are children in first world countries, in some of the richest countries on our planet, who have the same disease as Charlie does, and who couldn't afford those 2 pills. They just couldn't afford those 2 pills every week, and he would have to, those children, they would live in some pretty significant pain. Now, as he asked, well, wouldn't people just help them out? And I said, yes, a lot of times there is assistance for children, but there are also people, adults, and there's no assistance for adults, and so they just go on with it. Anyway, then he started talking about poverty, but as you can see, he's not here. He's not coming in, and I can't figure out for the life of me where he is, but I did send a message, and so hopefully he will come in. Let's go back to the comments here. Let's see. Good morning. Good morning. Toto now just explained no church to my husband. He, like me, can feel no church as different from the negative experience we've had with church. Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited about this particular corner of this channel. These no church events are real to me. They're really interesting, and to me, again, there's a connection to you that it might not be real time, and it might not necessarily be exactly like a conversation, but I'm able to see what you're thinking when you choose to share it, and we're all able to be here with each other. Yeah. Toto then says, didn't Jesus say, I have sheep in many pastures? Yeah, something along those lines, right? Yeah. Can you dissolve the pills in juice or something? No, we cannot dissolve the pills in juice. If you dissolve the pills in juice, it just makes the juice taste horrible. Yeah. Lost at Sea says, I've seen gelatin caps that are sold empty. Oh, I have never seen that before. So that is a really fantastic option. Yeah, yeah. Okay, we're gonna look for gel caps, empty gel caps that we can throw these pills into. That would be really neat. Yeah. Um, absolutely. Various ways to know God. Shannon, you're right on. Bless Charlie. Thank you. Oh, so sorry about Charlie's rheumatoid arthritis. Yeah. Um, we're hopeful that over time it'll pass, but we'll see. Sometimes it does apparently, and sometimes it doesn't. Cece, I wish he didn't have to take them either, but glad they are helping him. They really are. Like it's a world, an absolute world of difference for him. Um, yeah. Let's see. Nirvana says, I used to have a major problem taking pills. I finally found a way around it. I put liquid in my mouth first, tilt my head back, basically open my throat before you put the pill in. It's kind of like a Pez dispenser going in reverse. I get it. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I gotcha. I think I've seen cartoons where they've done that to their pets. Jessica, good morning, Jessica. doTERRA sells them. Hmm. Try the health food store. Yes, we in Shelburne, for a small town, we don't have a health food store, but we have two pharmacies here, and our pharmacies are phenomenal. Our pharmacists are absolutely spectacular. Um, they're amazing. They're absolutely perfectly incredible. We're very, very, very fortunate. So I bet if we go down there and say, hey, could you see if you could find us some gel caps? I bet you they'd be able to do that in a heartbeat. And happily, yeah. Um, the liquid keeps you from feeling the pill, especially if it is something that takes good or something that tastes good or something that, like a thicker liquid like Sunny D or milk. We've tried applesauce just as a way of getting it down. But yeah, this is fantastic. I should have just come on here like months ago and said, hey, folks, Charlie is having difficulty taking his pill. Could you help him with that? Let's see. Double check with the doctor that it is okay to use caps. Sometimes the drug's digestion time is important. Thank you. We'll do that. We will talk to our pharmacist here about that. She is awesome. Have you heard of Dr. Terry Walls? She had MS, also a TED Talk and some books. Interesting. Well, I haven't heard of her, but now I have. I did, however, see that raises up a really interesting question. There's an old joke, and it's an old joke. It was told to me years and years and years ago when I was working in the corporate world, and it was offered to us as an example. And you'll understand what the example was when I tell you the joke, it's a riddle. The riddle goes that a father and son, were driving in their car, and they were in a car accident, and both were really, really, really badly injured. The father was taken to a local hospital where he was having surgery. The son was taken to a children's hospital where he was going to undergo surgery. Now, while the father was in his surgery, the son was wheeled in to have his surgery. And when the doctor walked in, the doctor looked at the son and said, I can't operate on this boy. He's my son. How's that possible? Now, in today's world, now remember, this is like 25 years ago. 25? No, maybe not that. Maybe 20 years ago that this was first told to me. In that time, our context today has changed really, really spectacularly. But the answer that was given back then was the doctor is the boy's mother. Again, there's different ways of answering that question today, which is kind of cool, but we're not going to get into that. The other day, I found a mug on Facebook. Actually, it might have been Jessica who put it on Facebook, but it was a mug that said Miss, and it was crossed out, Mrs. crossed out, Ms. crossed out. Actually, it's Doctor. And I thought that was really spectacular. Yeah. Um, I would like to think that applesauce would be too thick because it doesn't slide down the throat easily. It slides down my throat easily. I can drink that stuff with a straw, but you're probably maybe that's what it was. Yeah. Mac Mock Design. Try watching The Egg by a person's name I'm just never going to be able to even try to pronounce here on YouTube. It's a fascinating story about connections with one God and another. Interesting. Very good. Yeah. Different trick for taking capsule. Airspace will make it float, so better to tip his head forward. You folks are just a wealth of information when it comes to taking pills. Is that something we need to talk about, or are we okay with that? Um, let's see, Rochelle, Ms. like arthritis, MS like arthritis. Sorry, I got different headspace. MS like arthritis is an autoimmune disease. Is it? I didn't. Okay, I didn't know that. I have a good friend here in Shelburne who suffers from MS, and she's spectacular. She is, if she's watching, she is incredibly mouthy. She is incredibly saucy. She is she is she is more sailors than most sailors that I know. She has a fabulously dirty brain, dirty mind, and tells her speech is, again, she's a sailor, and she cooks with a group we have here in the church that I'm going to be doing a video on someday very, very soon called the Honeybees. The Honeybees are a group of people in our parish who do some spectacular, they once a month they cook. Once a month they cook a community meal, a community lunch, a hot, nutritious, big lunch for anybody in the community who wants to come and get it. Doesn't matter if you can afford it or not. Everybody's welcome. I believe they take donations at the door, but that's not required. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's to come. Everybody's to sit together, and it is amazing. The food is spectacular. The community is spectacular. Everything about what they do is spectacular. Colleen, who is a longtime sufferer of MS, who is confined to a wheelchair, it does not stop her. She's in there, and yeah, and she's one of the driving forces behind the honeybees, along with Michelle, and Sabrina's new to the group, and Liz is there, and Georgia is there, and there's been lots and lots and lots of people that have been a part of it. They're fantastic. Yeah, Toto, get your own dirt. Yeah, it's a good joke. It's a good joke. Just a lot of people with health issues. Yeah, yeah. Is that what it is? I have pains. I have pains. Um, 1 second. We're gonna try for Charlie again. Where'd he go? Ugh. Okay, so I'm just gonna tell you Charlie's story. So Charlie decided it's okay. Do you want to come in and talk to folks? Why? You look spectacular. I'm wearing like the same, and I am. I'm wearing the same T-shirt I was wearing yesterday. I'll live. Nanaya's. Just come in. Anyway, so Charlie this morning we were having eggs. I made him breakfast, and we were having eggs, and he said, when I'm gonna start bringing money and food with me, and whenever I bump into somebody that needs money or food, I'm gonna give it to them. I mean, it's so simple. All right, oftentimes we go out, we think, oh, I have a little spare change or a couple of bucks, I'll use that. But what if we actually intentionally went out with that understanding that I'm doing this and I'm going to take this out to particular people who are on the street that we know are on the street. And I'm going to have that encounter with them. No, stay. No, please stay.
That was it.
No, I wanted to introduce you because people don't know you.
People know me.
No.
I've met everybody.
This is Nanaya. Yeah. I ordered her last year. I ordered her last year from Amazon. She's spectacular. No, I'm teasing. She is
straight from Russia.
Straight. She actually did spend time in Russia as an English teacher. Didn't you teach English? Well, what did you do in Russia?
Well, like just to help people out.
Right. What did you do for a job?
I was working with the navigators.
So she was working with a group called the Navigators in Russia. So she basically went to Russia for like 5 years on somebody else's dime.
Yeah.
That'd be nice job when you can get it.
I know. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
but no, she did missionary work in Russia, and she worked with university kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There he is. There's Charlie. I just told your story, man. Well, come on.
All right, ruined.
No, it's not ruined. I only started it. Let me ask, you come in and I'll ask you some questions. Okay? And we've been getting some really interesting thoughts about pills. Somebody mentioned, the one I'm most excited about is seeing if we can get empty gel caps. Put the pills in an empty gel cap. He takes it. They don't dissolve too quickly.
Oh.
It goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's worth a try.
It's worth a try.
Yeah.
So, Charlie Trevors, this morning we were talking about kids who can't afford the medicine that you take. And we were talking, and I don't know if you remember this, but one of the other drugs that Charlie might have to take at some point was it would come in a needle form. And a year's supply of that was $15,000. A year's supply of this drug that he would take once every 2 weeks was going to be $15,000. And we said, there are people that just can't afford that. Now, Charlie, you said that you had an idea that what you wanted to do was bring money and food, so that and drinks, and in case you bumped into who?
Ill people.
Ill people? Okay, and who else?
Not rich people.
Not rich people. What do you call not rich people? So people that need help.
Ill.
Well, they're not necessarily ill, but maybe like homeless,
Poor.
financially, they need assistance, whatever that might be. And
Or dead for.
and what?
Or dead for.
Dead for? What? You're the worst interview ever. Ever. But your idea...
Yeah.
Okay, don't do that. Your idea was to help them out, to bring stuff with us to help them out. That's a really great idea. I don't know of too many people that do that, but we could do that as a ministry.
Mm-hmm.
We could do that as a ministry where we encourage people to do that kind of thing. So that's a really fantastic idea. And you've just shared it with probably like a couple of hundred people, right? Now they might take that idea and they might run with it and do and do the same thing that you were thinking about doing. And now all of a sudden your idea is in the brains of like 200 people,
Or
and
150.
or 150 million. So we got to get to 150 million. You heard Charlie. This has to get to 150 million. But that idea can get out there, and now all of a sudden it starts spreading. And that ultimately is a great way for...
And then it beats Corona.
And then we beat Corona. Right. The great enemy of Charlie's day. For me, when I was a kid, they taught us to hide underneath our desk whenever the alarm went at the airbase, because it meant there could be a nuclear attack. For Charlie's generation, it's a pandemic. A pandemic that we're going to beat. And I actually think maybe I'm happier for Charlie's than for mine. Yeah. Baba, yes, she is my wife. Nanaya is my wife. Charlie is my son, and I have another son who's in Fredericton. Hi, Cam. I don't know if you're watching. And I have my other daughter, Maya, who still lives with us.
Get in here.
Even though, she won't ever leave.
Get in here, man.
Even though she, yeah, and we have another daughter, Nyla, and Nyla, you often see Nyla on our morning prayer, and she's the one that tells jokes. Yeah, I'm more willing to give food than money, especially here in the States, simply because I want to help. Giving food, drink, and such helps them. Too many would use the money for drugs and alcohol. I have a really fantastic story about that very question, that very concept. My kids heard it and they want to help. Awesome. See, Charlie, Jessica's kids in Pennsylvania heard your idea and they want to help. And Mark says he's going to do Charlie's idea. Fantastic. Mark, I'm sorry about last night. Just wasn't that the Bruins didn't look sharp last night. Oh well. We should all carry soup for our family. I think that might be the new name. What if that's the name? Could we hashtag that? Like, could we make that the thing? I, I'm digging this. I'm really digging this. I mean, we could look at getting thermoses, like, inexpensive thermoses that we could give to people. And yeah, yeah. We carry blessing bags. You can customize it to fit the season. Oh, that is wonderful. And Robin, thank you so much. See, this is great. It's great how these things keep going, right? Robin says we carry blessing bags. We can customize it to fit the season or need to our region. Travel toothpaste, toothbrush, mask, sanitizer, new socks, good ones, absolutely. Meal bars, yeah, that's brilliant. Helen, I give because that's what I'm supposed to do. What someone does with the money is something they're accountable for. Yeah. Hashtag soup for our family. Yeah, right. So here's a story about that idea, and it's not an invalid concept, right? Like it's not an invalid concept. Sometimes we do look at it and we say, well, I don't want to enable somebody to go down a journey, down a bad habit, and or something.
Minecraft, hooray!
Minecraft. Okay. Um,
Minecraft.
Very good. So I remember at seminary, and this isn't the be all and end all of this conversation. Excuse me. Something for us to keep talking about. Something for people to keep talking about. Keep thinking about it. We had a parishioner at a church that I was a student minister at, and they seen one of my professors giving a panhandler some money. And the next time she seen him, she tore a strip off him. He's just going to use that to get drunk. He's just going to go to the liquor store and spend that on liquor and get drunk. And what my professor said, a guy by the name of Rob Fennell, he said he might. Why is it that only rich people are allowed to spend their money at the liquor store? And when I thought about it in that context, I mean, we can look at it and say, well, there's responsibilities, and they should spend it on things that really matter. And I could say, well, rich people, like those billionaires we sometimes talk about, maybe one of the things that they could do is, instead of buying fancy bottles of wine, they could, I don't know, pay their income tax. Just, throw that out there. Sounds like Rule 303 on steroids. Yeah. I have a friend that does that with feminine hygiene products. Jessica, these are all absolutely spectacular ideas. This is brilliant, brilliant stuff. Yeah. These are really, really brilliant ideas. If a rich person wants to drink, it's okay. But if a homeless person wants to drink, it's not okay. That's kind of the concept, right? Like, and I think, see, there's a lot to be said about this. This isn't a simple, oh no, it should just be this or this. There's a lot to be said here. I've had friends who have been, they're addicts, they're alcoholics. I have a couple of friends who have a real struggle with crystal meth, with coke, with crack, and they have families and they have kids. And one of the things we say, well, you got to take care of your family. And I mean, it gets all convoluted. There's no easy way. There's no easy way of going about this, right? Maureen says, went out for a walk with hubby and missed the start of No Church. That's okay. That's okay. You can miss the start of No Church because you can come back and watch it later. That's cool. This is really phenomenal. I think maybe we should make this a part of our regular weekly meeting, is to say, okay, let's talk about community mission. What are some things that we can do? What are some of the things that people out there are doing in community mission? I think that's brilliant. Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it, love it, love it. While we're feeling happy, I'm gonna have to change gears again. Just as a reminder, any of the super chat, any of the super chat dollars that come in this month through the month of June will go to a fund called the Downey Wenjack Fund. That is a fund named after Gord Downey, the now deceased lead singer of the Tragically Hip, and a young boy by the name of Channy Wenjack. Channy Wenjack, his story sort of gained national attention here in Canada when Gord Downey discovered the story and started writing music and songs about it. And he released this book called The Secret Path, and it is the depiction of what Channy Wenjack's journey may have looked like. For those that might have missed it earlier, Channy Wenjack was a student at a residential school in Ontario. He was taken from his home and sent to this school, and one day Channy had enough, and he was going to walk home. He didn't necessarily know where home was or how far it was. He didn't know how far it was. He didn't realize it was a 600-kilometer journey that he took but he decided to take it anyway. He didn't know it was a 600-kilometer journey when he started, and he didn't make it. He died along the way, and he wasn't the only one. Oh, my understanding is over 150,000 Indigenous youth were forced to go to residential schools over a period of a little over a century. These residential schools were operated by Canadian churches and funded by the federal government. I'm finding this increasingly difficult, and that's what we're going to talk about this a little bit. And later on this week, I'm going to do a video speaking about the critical race theory and teaching difficult history. So I don't want to repeat myself, but maybe repeating myself is exactly what's needed. We should know our history, even when our history brings us to tears, even when our history makes our faces hurt, even when our history saps our emotional energy. We should know our history. We should know what has been done to us. We should know what we have done. And we shouldn't be afraid of the pain. We should not be afraid of the pain at all. We can't go back. Like, when I was talking to Nanaya earlier, my wife, I mentioned that I can't fix it, because to fix it, I'd have to go back in time. I can't fix it. I can't change what happened. But from where I sit, the very least I can do is make sure that it never, ever, ever, ever happens again in any circumstance to any person. Ever. But I will only do that. I will only do that if I care enough. And sadly, one human characteristic is that sometimes we don't care until it impacts us. And so I believe that allowing our history to impact us in a way that hurts, in a way that we are able to empathize with those who went on before, that if we're able to empathize, if we're able to feel their pain, if we're able to feel what needs to be felt, then we will work to prevent it from happening. Now, The Secret Path, this book, this absolutely spectacular book, It's illustrated, right? The whole thing's illustrated. And oftentimes we know that illustrations are meant for kids. You know, these illustrated books are great for kids. And we might say, well, we should let our kids read something about a little boy that was assaulted by a priest who died on the railroad tracks trying to get home. A kid that was stripped. His hair was cut. Who wasn't allowed to speak his own language anymore. Who wasn't allowed to worship in his own way anymore. This kid who was tortured. We shouldn't let our children read about that. Yeah, we should. Our kids are exactly the ones who need to know about this stuff so that when it comes time for them to lead, they don't make the same mistakes. So the Downey Wenjack Fund provides access to education on the true history of Indigenous peoples in Canada and the history and legacy of residential schools, and encourages reconciliation by way of our programming and events. They work with the arts, they work with music, they work with dance, they work with storytelling, they work with all kinds of different things. Whatever it's going to take to get the story out there, whatever it's going to take to get the history, the true history out there. This is what Gord Downey says, and you can see all this information that I have on this particular screen. This is found on these two websites. Chaney Haunts Me. His story is Canada's story. This is about Canada. We are not the country we thought we were. History will be rewritten. We are all accountable, but this begins in the late 1800s and goes to 1996. White Canada knew, on somebody's purpose, nothing about this. We weren't taught it. It was hardly ever mentioned. That's what Gord Downey said about this back in 2016, I believe. We weren't taught this in school. We weren't taught about this in school. I didn't know about this until I was in my 30s. That's not an excuse. It's not a good enough reason. But if this was something that we thought was actually good, we would have talked about it. We would have shared it. We would have been holding it up to be praised. We would have been patting ourselves on the back over it. We knew for decades and decades that this was wrong. And I would argue that's why we hid it. That's why those in power, that's why those making the decisions, those in the know, that's why those in the church hid it from people. Let's see. Annie, thank you so much for your generosity. Thank you so much. So grateful for all that you do. Thank you, Annie. I'm so grateful for your generosity. Jessica, thank you for your generosity. Oh, fist bumps. Perfect. That's awesome. Thank you for being here. Jules, thank you so much for your generosity. That is just absolutely incredible, everybody. I never know how much this is actually going to bring in, but everything helps. Everything helps. And if you would rather skip YouTube taking their share of this, then I would encourage you to go straight to the Downey Wenjack Fund. And they have a donate button up in the top right-hand corner of their screen, and just make a direct donation straight to them. If because this is a Canadian fund, it isn't necessarily applicable to you. There are funds set up like this in your country. If you're in North America or Australia, there are charities set up exactly the same as this that are trying to do similar things. So please support them. Support them. Let's see, Nirvana says you can't stop from repeating the mistakes of history if you don't know the mistakes made. It's why all history is important. Absolutely. All history is terribly important. Um, but I don't believe we should ever hide from the pain of it, right? It's important and we should be willing to feel it. It's important and we should be willing to be challenged by it. We should be willing to cry about it. We should be willing to feel emotional pain about it. We should ask those, it should cause us to ask those tough questions about not only like, oh, what were they thinking? Asking questions about ourselves. Where are my biases? Where are my fears? Where are my trepidations? Yeah. Joan says it shouldn't have to happen to you for it to matter to you. No, it shouldn't. But oftentimes it does require something to happen either to us or within close proximity, whether that's geographical or familial or communal. Oftentimes something has to happen near us or to us before we jump into action. And that's the beauty about empathy, right? That's the true beauty of empathy, is that we're able to connect in a deep and hopefully profound way. There is one problem with history, and it is a chronic condition. Too often history is told from the perspective of the winner. Looking at Egyptian hieroglyphs displays that well. I think I've mentioned this before, but I remember in my when I was taking my bachelor's degree, I loved classics, so I loved Greek history. And I remember reading a story written by, I want to say it was Thucydides or one of these, it was one of those early Athenian historians. And they talked about conquering a nearby island. They took an army over and they conquered this island, and they talked about the monsters that they encountered, and they even brought back skulls of these monsters. And they talked about the armies they encountered, and they talked about the courageous fighting and how victory came and how awesome the Athenian soldiers were. Well, it turns out they had conquered an island filled with fishermen. These weren't warriors. They weren't an army. They were fishermen. And the skull they brought back, representing one of these giants, one of these Cyclops giants, was an elephant skull. So history is definitely written by the victor. Shannon, there are great confessions being made. Absolutely. Now the healing and reconciliation can flow. Yeah, I hope so. And I think one of the things that I'm trying to lend myself to and trying to tell myself is that I won't forget. I'm going to try to keep talking about this. I'm going to try to keep talking about our Indigenous peoples and what we can do to partner with our Indigenous peoples and what we can do to learn and what we can do to grow with. I was sitting on my back deck looking out, and Shelburne's a beautiful small town in southern Nova Scotia, southwestern Nova Scotia, and so I'm looking at all the beautiful trees and the landscape, and I'm smelling the cut grass. And then it occurred to me that we took it. And now we don't want to look at ourselves like we took it. We want to look at ourselves as though we somehow partnered and we treated for it. But we broke our treaties. We broke our promises. Cece says we need to learn from history. Amen. Amen, Cece. T says this is why learning to read well is important, so one can do their own research. Yeah. That way you don't have to count on others teaching you. You can go out there and learn other things. Mel, thank you so much for your kind and wonderful donation. All donations are going to the Downey Wenjack Fund, named after Channy Wenjack and Gord Downey. Can we have spaghetti for supper? Where? Oh, okay. So this is how your family gets your. Apparently, this is how your family gets your attention. Is that they just start making comments. But I'm not going to respond to my family unless they make a donation, especially my daughter. So if she wants to make a super chat that will go to the Downey Wenjack Fund, I will make spaghetti for supper tonight. Yeah. When's dinner, Maya? Don't encourage that. Don't encourage that kind of thing. I'll tell you what. I will. Can someone make me a donaire? David. See, now we're on the okay, people, we're supposed to focus. Focus. We're not goldfish. All right? Focus. We don't have to look at the shiny stuff. But no, it's all good. It's so good to be here with you. It's always good to be here with you. Rainbow Gal says maybe a moment of silence every month to reflect on what was done so we don't forget. Yeah. Yeah, I've got a video coming up that I'm gonna do. It'll probably be coming out maybe for tomorrow. It was something I read today on a Christian news channel, and they were lamenting that people are complaining about that statement, thoughts and prayers. And I'm starting to feel like we need to be really careful that we never let anything become rote. But a moment of silence would be a good way of doing that. Speaking about something in particular and then taking a moment of silence to reflect on that would be really, really valuable. No, Maya, you can't have my credit card. No. Let's see. Linda, good morning. Mark, that's awesome. I think people are encouraging Maya a little bit too much. Disturbed and Sabaton are great bands that, while not Christian, is so much about reminding people of history. I am a huge fan of Disturbed. I don't know Sabaton, but I'm a huge fan of Disturbed. If you like Disturbed's music, though, there's another great band out there called Skillet, and they are a Christian band, though. Listening to their music, you would never know it. They're just fantastic, and they actually, one of the things that they talk about a lot is emotional and mental health. That's what I take out of their lyrics. So yeah, Disturbed though is a fantastic band. They've done some great original music, and they have done some phenomenal covers. Yeah. So folks, any of the super chats that are coming in today and this month will be going towards the Downey Wenjack Fund, which helps to teach Canada's real history, especially the history of the Indigenous peoples and their interactions, their story, the story that was forced upon them through the colonizing of this land. Now, on that note, I would like to offer a prayer for our nations. Now, I shifted this a little bit, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the U.S. And I don't know how to talk about this. I apologize, but I've noticed like shootings in the U.S. is starting to become a national pastime. Every time I turn on the news, there's been another mass shooting or another major shooting where there's 2 or 3 people dead and 4 or 5 people injured. And it's everywhere. It's schools, churches, grocery stores, nightclubs, street corners. It's everywhere. It doesn't strike me that there's workplaces, distribution centers. In Canada, we are facing, once again, the truth about our residential schools, our Indian schools. Our nations need some prayer. And this, by the way, this has nothing to do with us being sinful as we often see ourselves or are told we are sinful because we drink, or we play cards, or we watch TV, or we swear too much, or we love the person that we're not supposed to love, or we love a person that is the same gender as us, or we have a desire to choose to make our own decisions about our own bodies. That's not the sin of our nations. The sin of our nations starts here. It's in our heart. So, if you wouldn't mind, let's say a prayer for our nations. Almighty God, may we prove ourselves a people mindful of your generosity and glad to do your will. Bless this land with honest industry, truthful education, and an honorable way of life. Save us from violence, discord, and confusion, from pride and arrogance, and from every evil course of action. Make us who came from many nations with many different languages a united people. Defend our liberties and give those whom we have entrusted with the authority of government the spirit of wisdom, that there may be justice and peace in our land. When times are prosperous, let our hearts be thankful, and in troubled times, do not let our trust in you fail. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Folks, thank you all for being here today. Thank you all for being with me. Thank you for being such a wonderful, wonderful group. A wonderful bunch of people. Thank you for the love that you share with me, with my family. Thank you especially for the love that you share with each other. This feels like church to me. This feels like a congregation to me. Thank you for being a part of it. I will see you all later. I will see you all again very, very, very soon. I'll miss you until we get back together. We probably won't do a live stream this week, but we will the following week. I think it'll probably be Wednesday afternoons. We'll try to make Wednesday afternoons a sacred time, or maybe even Wednesday morning. We could even do Wednesday morning. Yeah. God bless you all. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you. May you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. And I pray that you will know how much you're loved, not only by God, but by me, by all the people on this channel. Amen. See you all later, folks.